should mount their mic now.
How many minutes? Because you need to.
Just do it now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
People say,
Because it's ready there to
yeah.
come. But you said it.
Wait.
Okay, so
Chimuka. 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 Kina washa mic yangu. Chimuka. My mic is on. Let me just check if it's on. So, it's on. Is it on? I'll quickly go and do the intros. Head of corporation
Chair,
of. Okay.
and he is representing.
Okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, may we make our way back to our seats. We're about to continue with the program. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. Make your way back to your seats. We're about to invite the president back into the auditorium. Friends in media and representatives from the press, please may you set up your microphones on the presidential podium before we call him back in the room. Members of media, representatives from the different media stations and companies, please set up your microphones on the presidential podium. He will be joining us in the next 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way back to your seats. We will be inviting the Republican president to join us back in the auditorium in 5 minutes so that we can catch up with our program. Honorable ministers, our heads of organizations, please may we make our way back to our seats so we can continue with this exciting program. Thank you, distinguished guests. Please make your way back to your seats. Mr. President is about to rejoin us. I think his podium is now ready. We are just about to give a go-ahead for him to rejoin us. Are we ready to receive him back? Are we ready? There, we're getting there. Colleagues from media, at this point, we have got all the microphones we need.
At some point, just decide that can we all be upstanding? The president is about to come.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Yeah. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may we all please be upstanding as we welcome back the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and his entourage. Well, at least that got your attention. Thank you. He is definitely joining us shortly. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming back the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who is here with us today at the launch of the PPD. A short reminder as he makes his way that just before he gives his keynote address, we will hear from Mr. Christopher Ridds, who is the head of corporate chair at Cooperating Partners Group. And then we will also hear from Mr. Carlos Katsuya, senior country manager from IFC. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. He is back. Please make welcome the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Thank you very much for your indulgence, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, welcome back. So far for the first part of the morning, as we took a short leg stretch, Mr. President, we heard from a panel discussion that discussed the deployment of how we can look at investor opportunities within the PPD, what opportunities are there for the different representations of sectors. We do have some outstanding questions. We couldn't get all of them in, and we have requested that those questions be written down and they will be redirected to the panelists so that we catch up with our program. At this point in time, Mr. President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Mr. Christopher Ridds, who is representing Ambassador Anne Wagner-Mitchell from the Cooperating Partners Group, to give us a few remarks before we head to the next speaker. And finally, we will hear from our president giving his keynote address. In the meantime, Mr. Christopher Ridds from Cooperating Partners Group, if you may join. Oh, you're already here. Please welcome him.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, Your Royal Highness, Honorable Ministers present, the Acting Secretary to the Cabinet, Acting ST, Permanent Secretaries, representative of the private sector, civil society, academia, and cooperating partners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Thank you for allocating a speaking slot to the Cooperating Partners Group, the CPG. Germany is currently the chair of the CPG. I'm delivering these remarks on behalf of Cooperating Partners and also on behalf of Ambassador Wagner-Mitchell, who is traveling to South Africa at the moment and sends her apologies. Let me start by congratulating you on the launch of the public-private dialogue, an important and much-needed initiative that has the full support of Cooperating Partners. I would like to touch on three main points: the importance of a clear focus on job creation, second, the importance of addressing the implementation gap and turning the PPD into a tool for delivery and action. And third, I will conclude with a few thoughts on how Cooperating Partners can support private sector development and job creation in Zambia. Let me start with the importance of focusing on job creation. It is important that the PPD is clear about its ultimate objective. Given the government's emphasis on job creation, it would be useful to focus the PPD on job creation. We should judge any actions resulting from the PPD against this objective. In other words, additional investment alone is not enough if it is not creating jobs. This includes ensuring that any tax policy change or any other initiative, such as the creation of special economic zones, are designed with job creation in mind, and that they should be evaluated against this objective. To give an example, any tax relief should be given under the condition that a certain number of jobs are created and that they remain in place for a certain period. Of course, mining, agriculture, and tourism will remain important pillars of the Zambian economy. But the PPD also gives an opportunity for engagement in sectors that are non-traditional, but could significantly diversify the economy and aid faster growth. Sectors such as business process outsourcing, logistics, pharmaceuticals, creative industries, and the green economy all have potential in Zambia, but don't get enough airtime. Making progress in these sectors could actually be quicker and more effective if sufficient time was spent on them. And it also means looking beyond Zambia and use the PPD to support Zambian-based businesses to export more into the region and make the most of Zambia's geographic position. Mr. President, job creation and economic transformation require a healthy, educated workforce with the right set of skills. It is therefore of utmost importance that the government continues to prioritize investments in health, education, nutrition, water and sanitation, as well as other human development areas. This should be complemented by a major renewal of the Zambian technical and vocational training system. The PPD, with its multi-stakeholder and multi-sector approach, is ideally placed to lead a skills development drive that meets the need of the private sector. Far too often we hear from private sector colleagues that the lack of skilled workers is holding back investment. A reformed TVET system, a true public-private partnership for skills development, can deliver jobs for Zambia's youth and be a major enabler for investment and economic transformation. And to promote international investment, it is important to focus on immigration. Being open to investment means having immigration processes that support that aim. We have many examples of incoming investors being frustrated by immigration issues. This is particularly important for sectors like technology services. Zambia needs to be as welcoming as the most advanced countries and offer new and streamlined services, for example, investor visas. Finally, energy is an enabler for all economic sectors. The Zambian energy sector is, however, due to ZESCO's unsustainable financial situation, currently not yet fit for private investment. This is holding back hundreds of millions of available investment. While a comprehensive solution will require the debt restructuring and an IMF deal, the government could do more and forcefully communicate its sector reform plans and timetable as a way to rebuild investor confidence. A successful energy sector reform will be a key enabler for all the areas of the PPD, and such a communication could be an early outcome of the PPD. My second point, the importance of addressing the implementation gap and turning the PPD into a tool for delivery. While the case for the PPD is clear, it is important that the PPD focuses not too much on diagnosing the problem, but on follow-up and specific solutions. As my colleague Peter from IFC has also pointed out in his presentation, we must avoid that the PPD becomes a very high-level talk shop. Too many previous efforts were hindered by a lack of implementation despite good policy recommendations. Addressing this implementation gap may be the most important challenge to overcome if the PPD is to deliver progress for all Zambian citizens, whether in Lusaka, other urban areas, or remote rural areas. It is therefore highly welcome that the design of the PPD takes up these lessons, as the IFC presentation has pointed out, and aims to combine the dialogue function with the delivery function and follow-up mechanism with clear timelines and targets supported by a strong secretariat. Beyond the PPD structures, addressing the implementation gap will require continued political will, clear prioritization, improved accountability and transparency, as well as reforming the civil service, including its mindsets, to focus on quick and determined implementation of government policies and service delivery. And that is why it is so important and highly welcome that the PPD will be led by you, Mr. President. Then, Mr. President, you've been outspoken about your desire to restore the rule of law, deepen democracy, root out corruption, and strengthen transparency and accountability. These issues are also critical for the PPD and its mission to create a level playing field for everyone. Transparency and accountability through strengthened oversight institution, citizen participation, and zero tolerance on any form of corruption, past, present, and future, will go a long way towards the objective of their PPD and in ensuring that scarce public resources deliver services for the Zambian people. And your government has frequently pointed out reforms to deepen and strengthen governance at all levels must move hand in hand with the implementation of economic reforms. A strong democracy and governance system is the most effective risk insurance against the misuse of public funds and privileges for the few. We trust that together we can turn the PPD into a tool for real consultation and advice from the different stakeholders that delivers specific recommendations followed by action. A new partnership for job creation with the government, private sector, as well as cooperating partners joining forces. Let me conclude with a few thoughts on how CPs can support the dialogue. Zambia's cooperating partners stand ready to support the PPD and its mission to remove barriers to job creation. Specifically, Zambia's cooperating partners can support in 3 ways. First, promotion of business opportunities in Zambia. For example, through the various chambers of commerce and events such as the upcoming EU-Zambia Business Forum, which will lead to increased interest and FDI. It is now, we all notice a highly increased interest in doing business in Zambia. For instance, the Private Sector Association in Germany, the Afrika Verein that deals with investments in Africa. We recently had an information session for them. Instead of just a couple of companies participating, we had more than 50 companies really interested in coming to Zambia and investing and partnering with Zambian companies here. Now we must turn this interest into real investments. That is one of the tasks of the PPD, and we all cooperating partners stand ready to do this. Second, via the development finance institutions. In addition to IFC, there are bilateral institutions such as US DFC, Germany's DEG, British International Investment, FinFund, Swedfund, French Proparco, and Dutch FMO. All institutions are looking for investment opportunities in Zambia and stand ready to join with Zambian partners in creating investment and jobs here in Zambia. We suggest to include DFI strongly in the PPD so that it can result in specific investments. Finally, we can use official development assistance to catalyze further private investments through guarantees and other mechanisms, and by supporting you in reforming the investment climate, the TVET system, the energy sector, as well as your continued investment in human capital. Cooperating partners are fully committed to contribute and to work with all of you to build a stronger partnership for job creation and economic development for the benefit of all Zambians. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Christoph Ritz, Head of Chair of Cooperating Partners Group, CPG. He is representing Ambassador Anne Wagner Mitchell. He highlighted and reiterated the commitment of collaborating partners to the PPD Forum and the PPD process, ensuring that all key stakeholders take part in all the efforts that are being made to ensure that PPD is a success. It has indeed taken a lot of partners to put this launch forum together. We acknowledge the support from the Bankers Association of Zambia, as well as Media 365, for ensuring that we convene this forum this morning. So thank you very much to the additional partners. For our next part of the program, I would like to introduce the head of IFC mission for Angola, Botswana, Mozambique, and Zambia, who is based in Luanda, Angola. He leads IFC strategy definition and implementation in these countries, focusing on sustainable development through economic diversification. He has more than 30 years of experience in corporate and project finance, as well as capital markets in emerging markets. He has worked extensively in infrastructure, including advisory to companies, government, and regulators. Since 2018, he has also been serving at the board of a telecommunications infrastructure company as a non-executive board director. Mr. President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure in inviting Mr. Carlos Katsuya, Senior Country Manager from IFC.
Your Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, honorable ministers and members of parliament, Your Highness, the chair of the cooperating partner groups, Ambassador Anne Wagner, represented today here by Mr. Christoph Ritz, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, esteemed members of the private sector, eminent counterparts of the Zambian government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to represent the International Finance Corporation today and to be a part of this auspicious launch of the Public-Private Dialogue Forum for Private Sector Growth and Economic Development. The forum is intended to be a structured collaboration between the government and the private sector to systematically address barriers to investment and foster private sector growth, economic development, and especially job creation. Allow me, please, Mr. President, to first of all congratulate yourself, the government, and all the private sector stakeholders and cooperating development partners who have made this possible and have committed to its sustainability. The IFC, which is the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, has enjoyed a long-standing relationship and a fruitful partnership with the government and the people of Zambia, as well as a very productive relationship with the private sector. This relationship ranges from financial institutions to notable private sector investments in energy, such as the Scaling Solar Program that delivered the first utility-sized solar projects in Zambia a few years ago, agribusiness, tourism, as well as the telecom space. And honestly, we look forward to having many more years of this relationship. IFC is the largest global developmental institution focused on the private sector in developing countries. We are supporting key pillars of Africa's private sector that will lead to a sustainable recovery and contribute to resilient growth, notably the digital, green, health, SME, housing, and infrastructure sectors, with a specific focus on creating opportunities in some of the most fragile settings. IFC's activities in any country are driven by diagnostics and strategies that aim to support a country's agenda, drawn heavily from the government's development plans. We are therefore quite pleased that this launch is happening after the adoption of Zambia's 8th National Development Plan, as this will serve as an important guiding document in understanding the government's priorities. Through our advisory and investment services, IFC respectively supports enabling policy actions and targeted investments in sectors of the economy where short to medium-term reforms could unlock investment and create jobs. By reviewing enabling sectors and what can be done to unlock their potential, the IFC engages with various actors to explore opportunities for crowding in private financing and leveraging private sector solutions to address gaps in financing, skill development, and infrastructure, among others. It is in this context that IFC's support for the Forum for Public-Private Dialogue for Private Sector Growth and Economic Development has been structured. From our consultations with a wide cross-section of stakeholders, the challenges that were consistently expressed include fragmentation of the private sector and policy inconsistency, each of which are said to have contributed to the deterioration of trust between the public and the private sectors. These are not unusual. We have considerable experience with developing and supporting such platforms in multiple jurisdictions, including countries such as Vietnam, Cambodia, Kenya, Bangladesh, and Rwanda. In many of these countries, we have proposed PPD forums and sector-specific working groups to cultivate mutual trust between the government and the private sector. And that's what we hope that the launch of this PPD forum today in Zambia will represent, an opportunity to rebuild this trust. And IFC is ready to make our expertise acquired through the years and in many markets available to Zambia's PPD forum. And as my colleague Peter alluded to when he presented the proposed structure for Zambia, there are some critical features of a successful PPD platform. These include institutional anchoring of the PPD and its mandate at the highest possible level of government in order to ensure appropriate convening authority to driving change. Deployment of a very competent secretariat led by a respected technocrat or private sector actor with analytical capacity to identify issues, present policy options, and engage monitoring and accountability systems to deliver on results frameworks. Very clear, defined, and time-bounding objectives from the onset. And finally, adequate funding from key stakeholders for optimal performance. We are delighted to have the President of Zambia here today at the launch of this forum, which evidences commitment at the highest level to ensure the success of this platform. Additionally, the fact that the President has chosen to chair the steering committee also proves that there is little doubt that the forum will be anchored at the highest level of the government. From that fact also that IFC was invited to present the PPD concept to the Economic Cluster of Cabinet and subsequently to the whole Cabinet, there is no doubt that it is a priority for the government to increase private sector engagement in the country's development agenda. IFC, for our part, has committed to fund and support the operationalization of the Secretariat that will engage stakeholders to identify key economic-wide and cross-cutting, as well as sector-specific barriers to investment, to support the constitution of stakeholder working groups, to develop policy and regulatory reform action plans, and support delivery on action plans. To ensure that the PPD does indeed achieve the promise of its creation, IFC proposes to engage our teams to actively seek out investment opportunities that are unlocked by reforms delivered through the PPD. It means that reforms will not happen just for the sake of reforms. They will generate concrete opportunities for private sector investment. IFC will also make sure that the proposed reforms and outcomes from the forum are linked, as I mentioned, to specific investment engagements through collaboration with our investment and advisory teams. This will provide real-time demonstrative effect on the impact that such reforms can yield. It is important to note that the support to the forum is shared by the many private sector organizations, by the Cooperating Partners Group, and by a range of stakeholders, without whom the long-term sustainability of the platform would be tenuous. They all deserve credit and recognition. Finally, It is our hope that the forum will play the key role we all know it can in eliminating barriers to private sector investment and delivering the jobs and economic growth that will make Zambia thrive even more. We wish the forum every success in the years ahead. Thank you very much.
Another round of appreciation for Mr. Carlos Katsoye, representing the passionate commitment on behalf of the International Finance Corporation and World Bank Group, who pride themselves in creating markets and creating opportunities. Mr. President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, would like to just acknowledge that we are running a little over time, but it's definitely worth the wait if you could indulge us with your time a little longer, because in a short while I will respectfully ask the Acting Secretary to the Cabinet to please do us the honors to please invite the Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to give us his keynote speech. Mr. Patrick Kango, sir, if you could do us the honors, I invite you here.
It is now my honor and privilege to invite the President of the Republic of Zambia and the Chairman of the Public-Private Dialogue Forum Steering Committee, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to address the forum. Mr. President, sir.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Thank you very much. May I take your seats, please? Thank you very much, colleagues. Just to acknowledge the presence of cabinet ministers, colleagues from cabinet. I am aware there are provincial ministers that are here as well. And indeed to the acting secretary to the cabinet, who has ushered me in here, and Her Royal Highness Chieftainess Nkomesha Mukamambo II, Your Excellencies, High Commissioners, ambassadors accredited to this country, including the German ambassador, who has been represented by his colleague, who is leading a group of cooperating partners in supporting us, working with us in this important exercise. And I also want to acknowledge the legion of business leaders in our country that are here, that have been supportive of this process for quite some time, for many years. I know that I see some of those that I've been working with in the private sector from my youth days as a young entrepreneur in this country. So I'm very, very enthused to see you standing strong despite the challenges that the private sector has gone through over the years. And we are here to unlock those challenges, and I think we will do it together. I know that the IFC senior country manager, who basically has spoken here and has spoken well, and his team, those based in South Africa, some of whom are known to many of you. We were planning this even when we were in the opposition. Today I can disclose, and it has come because we've been working for it to be materialized, or to materialize. I want to respect other associations that are here, business associations, senior government officials, who have been working behind the scenes to make this day today happen in this manner. So I'm very grateful to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, the media. We're very grateful for your presence today. We are extremely delighted, I must say, extremely delighted to be here at this important occasion at which we are launching the Public-Private Dialogue Forum for Development, if I may call it that in short form. This is our program. I want to emphasize this from the outset. This is our program. This is the Zambian government program. It's not an IFC program. No, it is our program. It is the people of Zambia's program. Public, those who work in the public sector, those who are in the private sector, this is our program. And there's a reason I'm emphasizing this, and I will mention this later, but let's get it very clear. But we are happy to work with partners, bilaterals, multilaterals. And as we all know, the IFC is part of the World Bank. So ladies and gentlemen, the socio-economic development of our country cannot be left to government alone. Never. It's not possible for government to deliver development on its own because it hasn't got all it takes to reconstruct our economy. It is the responsibility of every one of us in public sector, in the private sector, in the partner group that we've been working with and growing the list going forward. We need to drive economic development for the good of our country. If for anything, for the private sector, economic development will expand your market. It will expand those that demand your goods and services. So if for that reason, or what I may call a selfish reason, for someone who wants to call it that, it's a good reason to be able to participate in the development, driving the development of this country, so that when your customers order your goods, they can pay for the goods that they've ordered. I think that's good behavior. We recognize the private sector as the engine for innovation, job creation, and I want to stick to this platform, and I'm glad it's been mentioned already, is for jobs. It is for jobs and more jobs, because when we get the jobs created, other things will fall in place. That's how it works. So we're very, very keen to ensure that the private sector creates the jobs. Zambian government has limitations. We've created 30,000 jobs for teachers, 11,000 for medical staff, 42,000 plus this year, plus others. Never enough. The significance, the magnitude of job creation will come from the private sector. So let's work together to drive growth in our country. The role of the private sector in contributing towards realization of our vision, the government's vision 2030, and the country's becoming a prosperous nation cannot be underestimated. In order to ensure meaningful private sector participation in the economy, the Public-Private Dialogue Forum has been established, as I said, not by chance, but as a deliberate move to be able to actualize the potential that we have been sitting on as a country for decades. And we will not sit on this potential anymore. We will realize it together. This forum, yeah, indeed, I've said to many colleagues off official channels, I'm sick and tired of hearing the story of Zambia's potential. I'm tired. You should be tired. We want to realize this potential. God placed us in a country which is special in terms of location. We used to complain about being a landlocked country. I'm tired of hearing that. You should be tired of hearing that. We're a land-linked country. We must be the center of production, processing, packaging, distribution, domestic market, support, supply, regional and international market. That's the story we want to hear. That is what will help us realize this potential we've been talking about for years and years. Equally, the Dialogue Forum will focus on leveraging partnerships and synergies to accelerate our social economic development agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, the contribution of the private sector to economic development in the country in the past years, I must admit, has been limited, inhibited, in part by inadequate government uptake of recommendations coming from the private sector. We want to make this thing as a thing of the past. When we agree through this platform, we debate, we agree. As a team, we shall ensure implementation of the actions that we've agreed, because we'll have generated them together. So this is new, and I know what I'm talking about coming from the private sector. I know. Even with my naughtiness in my early years in business, my aggression, it used to take me so long to put to bed a project, a very straightforward project. It took us so many years, 4 years, to put together a large tourism project in Livingstone because of unnecessary arguments, sometimes based on lack of understanding, sometimes based on just selfishness, driven by other issues. We want to bring this to an end. This is why this tool today we are launching is extremely important to all of us. In order to accelerate economic turnaround, we need well thought out, evidence-based, responsive, and implementable solutions. The New Dawn administration is resolved to deliver economic transformation together with yourselves in the private sector. We can never do it alone. We are aware of that. We know the limitations of the private sector. We know the limitations of government. But these limitations can be offloaded if we work together. And we should. Ladies and gentlemen, the Public-Private Dialogue Forum for Development that we are launching today will provide the strengthened partnership, which is long overdue, between the public and the private sector. It will promote a mechanism for structured interaction. May I repeat this? It will provide a mechanism for structured interaction, a structured interaction between government and the private sector on various matters affecting our economy. To be basic, affecting our communities, the way we live, the opportunities that are available to us, and the abject poverty that I'm embarrassed to acknowledge exists in our country, a country so endowed by God in terms of resources. I'm embarrassed. You should be embarrassed, especially you Zambians. There's no reason that your neighbor should live a life less than yours. You are responsible for your neighbor's state of affairs. We are responsible. We can make a difference. This tool will help us to jointly identify challenges that are inhibiting private sector development or investment in our country, productivity, and competitiveness. Because we don't live in an isolated country. We live as part of the global village. So we must be competitive, both across, within the economy, in the sectors, intra-sectors, across the sectors, but also particular projects that we wish to embark on or are basically work in progress. The Public-Private Dialogue Forum will foster trust between government. You heard what my previous speaker, our previous speaker, just said. In the past, the lack of a structured way of working together, start-stop processes, on and off processes, agreed measures not implemented, eroded the confidence and the trust between the public and the private sector. We should deal with this rebuilding of confidence in this platform, in this instrument we have chosen for ourselves. And we're determined to do that. Going forward, we want this platform, this instrument, to be our way of working. You heard me. We would like to make this instrument as our way of working, as a normal way of working. Not sometimes, but always. I think we will achieve the benefits intended if we do it that way. The interface between government and the private sector will lead to the creation of a favorable and predictable operating environment for private sector-led growth. Let me repeat. This is for, if anything, jobs. Jobs and more jobs. I know, you know, when we create jobs, there are other underlying issues that will fall in place. No question about it. Because you can't create a job without an investment. You can't invest without an appropriate environment. You cannot sustain a job without business success. So these are the things that fall in place by virtue of us creating jobs, meaningful jobs, sustainable jobs. I said earlier that if for the private firm to participate on this platform, this two structured way of working, means that instead of 20 people demanding what you produce, now you'll have 100 people. You'll have achieved something. Absolutely. A summation of 80 jobs, 80 demand points which were not there before by many companies, many businesses, will lead to our economy bottoming up. And again, as a person, I must admit, I'm so embarrassed how we allowed our country's economy to degenerate. Only 10 years ago, we were growing by around 6 to 7% per annum. And we allowed this to be wiped out. We just sat there and watched. We sat and watched. We should not do such things going forward. This dialogue platform will allow us to avoid being observers when the economy is being destroyed, and only to come back to work on dismantling the debt, which we had dismantled under the HIPIC program. Now the debt has come back, returned with a huge quantum. Where were we? Why didn't we take some actions? This platform will allow us not to do such things again together. Because I want to assure you that if we, for us, had come into office when the economy was growing at 6%, we would have been looking at driving it to 10%. And that means a lot. That means a lot for young people who are seeking jobs. Let's learn some lessons from there. Maybe we were scared of each other, public, private, we were scared of retribution. I understand that. But that environment is no longer there. There's now a better environment for us to work together to ensure that never again do we return to working on problems we had solved already, such as debt. We had solved that problem. And I'm delighted within these challenges to let this August House know that we are now on our way to a full debt restructuring program based on a common framework. China has come on board. I want to thank China for that. Our critics were saying we've ignored China. No, we choose to work behind scenes and not make noise before you've done anything. But I also want to thank other creditors that have been on board much longer. The IFC colleagues know what I'm talking about. I want to thank them. I want to thank also the patience of Zambians. But today is a special day that as we tackle the debt issue, we must tackle the job creation issue using our own private sector, our own investors in this country, who we have not respected for many years. We want to respect you now, going forward. Because before the external lenders came, you were there to keep the economy going. Every economy that is not anchoring its development on domestic investors, local investors. When I say local investors, I mean as a registered business here. You are a corporate citizen. That development is not sustainable. I know that. I think we all know that. So we cannot ignore the resilience of the domestic investors, locally based investors. Don't misunderstand me. you are a part of a multinational, you registered here, you do business here, you're a part of a local corporate citizen. So we appreciate all those efforts. Very, very well appreciated. We are indeed breaking down the silos within which business, membership organizations, and indeed others have traditionally operated. This will encourage greater collaboration across sectors, within sectors first, across sectors. And I dare say, on this platform, we expect to see certain significant projects, certain transactions to be scheduled in the work streams as standalone activities, because we know their significance. Unlocking the mining sector is important. Mopani, KCM, First Quantum, Kasenseli Gold are important. And you will see some of the work streams in here singling out those transactions, because when we unlock them, they will add on to the job creation and the economic growth that we're seeking. Distinguished guests, using the Public-Private Dialogue Forum, our administration is determined to strengthen its relationship with all of you, in your diversity. All of you, madam, the comment you made, I listen. It's a habit of mine. I listen, I take notes. We are aware. You will not be left out. Women in business, you will not be left out. This is the launch of the platform. Micro businesses will not be left out. Small, medium businesses will not be left out. Obviously, the large businesses are important because they also trigger support for micro, medium, and small enterprises. That's the way it works. So I hope on this toolkit platform, there will be no debate or discussion of them versus us. No, it is us together. Small business, women businesses, across the geography of this country. I just want to alert the House here, those debates belong to the past. But when we sense that some streams are being left out, we must talk and quickly create space for them. The examples of the work streams you've been given today is not exhaustive, is not conclusive. It is open to add more streams. That's the nature. That's the nature of this animal we are launching today, and it's by design. We are motivated by the need to harness trade and investment opportunities for our private sector on the local, regional, continental, and international markets. You saw me going to Congo first time after our election, almost. Our colleagues were complaining, what the hell is this chap doing in Congo? I said, but where do you live? If Zambian new president doesn't go to Congo and reach out, where is your market? And I'm very delighted to confirm to this House today that by Friday, my brother, the president of Congo, President Tshisekedi, will be here, and we are signing agreements to accelerate trade and to unlock the rigidities that have been inhibiting trade between Zambia and Congo. That covers a range of areas. The traditional exports, small, medium, and large. But also looking at how strategically we work together as the two countries on the continent that are leading in terms of God's endowment, nature's endowment in electrical vehicle industry, metals, all minerals. So we have decided to work together with Congo and create a strategic value as other countries did before who are oil producing. This is our oil as well, going forward. And we would like the business community to be part of it. We want to promote value chains, value addition for various commodities and products, and create jobs, obviously, and wealth for our people. We must not be afraid of creating wealth businesses. We shouldn't be afraid. This country has been demonizing business communities Obviously, maybe there's some wrong things some businesses did, but a clean, job-creating business, a business that pays taxes to a treasury, fair taxes to a treasury, a business that delivers dividends to its shareholders, is a dividend that delivers value to all of us. So I hope again, we've turned a new leaf as a country. To support growth means supporting businesses that create jobs, because they employ our cousin, our nephew. They employ their own people. And as long as they're Zambians, I don't really care who their names are. I don't care. I care that they've been given a job by a business that's created that extra job. And that job must be sustained by us ensuring that as government, that business succeeds commercially. Because if it doesn't succeed commercially, it will not sustain those jobs. It will declare those workers redundant. And then the government gets bothered on redundancy packages. No. It's a different way of packages called redundancy. Is to sustain jobs. People must retire at the time of retirement and be able to have a viable pension. That requires business and investors in that sector as well. So we need everybody. We must work together as a team. I want to say we commit as a government. We committed to an inclusive, transparent, accountable dialogue mechanism with the private sector. Very committed, extremely committed. And I don't want to play with words here. The English say the test of the pudding is in what? Is in the eating. So from today, we want to start testing the pudding. I have seen on the screen here, thank you for our colleague from IFC, low-hanging fruit. There have been so many efforts to unlock business opportunities in this country. So many groups. I belong to so many over the years. So part of what I consider as low-hanging fruit is to dust up those recommendations that have already been made and money invested over years and fuse them into this toolkit and work on them. I'll embarrass somebody here. Mark O'Donnell, we've been working on the tourism issues, unlocking tourism. The checklist is there. This is the platform where we must push that checklist that we worked on for probably 20 years back, and not much was done. They remain valid today. Low-hanging fruit. Let's drive them. ZAM, low-hanging fruit. Let's drive them on this platform. And now that you'll be co-chairing some work streams with the permanent secretaries, they will have no space to hide because they will be part of the decisions to implement those work streams. Let's take advantage of that. I want to express my delight when we are figuring out who will help us run the secretariat. A few names popped around. And I'm very happy that Andrew Chipwende has agreed to run this secretariat. Very delighted. I know what Andrew can do. I know how difficult things were in the past, and his efforts, together with others, to get things done in this country. You don't have to fight now to get things done, as we used to fight in the past. Now, you will have willing partners in the name of government. Please build a strong secretariat there, talented secretariat, one that's willing to work at 20 hours if it's necessary. I was brought up in a professional hall. Hours was not what got us to be viewed as successful. It was the deliverables. Thank you, Andrew. Very soon, the membership of the high-level steering committee will be made public. And we wish the steering committee well in advance. It will be one of you, it will be some of you. We wish you well in advance. You'll occupy an important role to work with the Secretariat, to work with the colleagues in government, to stamp your mark, especially to take out this bureaucratic behavior and way of doing things in the hope that you can blame somebody. There will be no one to blame. We have to get it done. We have to get it done because we don't have an option. I told you the economy went down, growing from 6% to 5 to 4 to 3 to 0. What choice do we have? There's none. It's just to fix this thing, and we should do it. The steering committee will comprise of principal economic cluster ministers, and the first time we had a presentation of this instrument to the economic class ministers, I looked at the faces of my colleagues in cabinet. Some of them are saying, what the hell is this SH is talking about? But after running through, as IFC did today, and us interfacing to look at the relevance of some of the approaches to our situation, at the end of that meeting, I saw my ministers, their smiles were getting broader and broader. But this is only the beginning. So you will be now in the position to drive this thing. The leadership of the key private sector organizations, inclusiveness, you have heard already. Don't exclude women businesses. If you try and exclude them, we'll bring them back on the tape because they should be part of it. I've said the Secretariat already, but the independent members with unique insights on the barriers to investment and how to resolve these, because they've been working at these things for years. They too will come on this steering committee because we will avoid reinventing the wheel. And that's important. We don't have the time. Time is limited. Time is money. Ladies and gentlemen, with the Public-Private Dialogue Forum now in place, it is our expectation that the bottlenecks to development of the private sector will be identified, remedied, timely, on a continuing basis. I said earlier, not start, stop. This government will not stop this process. This government will demand results from this process, as the private sector should demand results from this process. So together we'll demand results. So we are aligned here. I said earlier, this should be our way of working. Completely our routines. Together we'll put in place and implement progressive policies that will enable the private sector to thrive and bring about the much-needed transformation of our economy. Actionable, time-based checklist of actions, starting with the low-hanging fruit, what we already have on our files. We also expect a proactive approach to dealing with the issues that impact our economy. These could be new issues that we've been not familiar with before. These two will have a space. We want this toolkit to remain relevant. The forum should generate realistic resolutions. Is there not a shopping list opportunity? No. No. You bring a shopping list, you must interrogate it together with your other colleagues and agree the priorities. The priorities that will trigger change, that will trigger job creation for somebody who spent years in school, but they've been sitting for 10 years. Teachers that we're employing now, some have been sitting for 10 years after graduating. Imagine the psychological effect to such a young person. So those are the sort of priorities that will take the front seat as we work through this process. Focus should be on recommending economic policies that increase national wealth through the participation of citizens, indeed, local companies in the supply chain. We want to see that debated on the table. through the participation of citizens and sectors, specific transactions in our economy, the role that government must provide, the role that the private sector must provide, together, this should basically work its way into these debates, these discussions, must work their way into various government instruments or mechanisms. Shall I be specific? The budget. The first budget we put in place, we didn't have much time. I'm looking at the faces seated around here. We argued a little bit. We didn't have much time. Now, we want this platform to provide these checklist of issues that we can, some of them will work their way into the next national budget. That should be easier to deal with now, because we have a bit of time. I actually feel that we've lost some time, but I think we can recover a bit of time, especially if we work on the concept of low-hanging fruit, based on years of efforts in the past. So let's bring some of these items into the next budget. I listened to the panel discussion here. Taxation discussion is not taboo. No. It's an interface between the intention of a tax, what it's supposed to do, yes, to raise revenue for the treasury, yes, we need it, to deliver free education, yes, we need it to expand the CDF, and Mr. Msonda, Festo, thank you for the comment you made on CDF. We expect leveraging. Thank you, sir. You remember our conversation when you sneaked into my room at a hotel in Dola, when you were afraid that you may be victimized. Now you don't have to fear. You don't have to sneak in the night to come and see me. This is important as part of the environment, isn't it? Operating environment. So we want to see some of these issues now coming through. And tax is not taboo. Acting Secretary to the Treasury. It's not a taboo discussion. I heard your answer. I think it's good answers you gave. But now is the time to look at how is this tax helping create jobs? How is it helping? Can we tweak it? Can we look at it so that it doesn't damage the Treasury, but it actually improves the Treasury, but also supports job creation? We'll find the middle ground, isn't it? Working together. Ladies and gentlemen, the success of this forum is entirely dependent on the collective effort and commitment from all of you, including those that are not here today. Because you are only representatives, only. There are many who are not here. But together, we should make this instrument work for us as a country. We are doing all of this for the betterment of the lives of our people, ultimately. You want to fight poverty, partially create a job. See, win off that individual from social cash transfer. Social cash transfer is important, but we want proportionately the social cash transfer beneficiaries to be dwarfed by people who work for themselves, to be dwarfed by people who are employed, people who are self-employed because they run a business. These days I'm careful what I say. I didn't say reduce social cash transfer support. I said proportionately, even if we increase the social cash transfer, like we have done under our government, but it will be overweighed by the increase in the number of jobs we create and business opportunities. That doesn't mean a reduction in social cash transfer. Because someone will run a headline that the president said cut on social cash transfer. No, that's not what I'm saying. So, we are doing this for our country. It's our program. We are doing this for our people. Any government that doesn't work to improve the lives of the people really has missed the reason it was elected into office. Despite the challenges that we face today, oil prices, fertilizer prices. We understand our duty is to drive solutions from different angles. Bilaterals we're working on the oil, and fuel and fertilizer. But this one is another attack point for us to be able to deal with the cost of living, to be able to grow the economy. So it's a multifaceted approach. I love this approach because if we do it properly, it's sustainable. It's resilient. So, our continued involvement from the early days as a government of conceptualizing or refining this toolkit, and our presence, continued presence, I'm sure demonstrates our commitment and the importance we place as a government and attach to this engagement with the private sector. But now, properly. Now, not talking over each other, but talking with each other. And agree after some debate. We expect equal commitment and transparency from the private sector and other partners. I'm not shy to say it. When I met the manufacturers at the Pamours Hotel, my brother here will tell you, I said that part of the damage that was done in the last 10 years was a private sector, some, not many, who worked in collusion with government and ministries such as finance, justice, and line ministry to actually damage the economy. We don't expect the private sector to use this platform to do things that will damage the economy, but to do things that will build the economy. I'm talking about corruption. That's what I'm talking about. What we're dealing with now is a situation where citizens had no chance to survive. They had no chance in hell because the government and the private sector, a small number, were colluding to damage the economy. We don't expect that going forward. We work together to build, not to damage. To legalize economic damaging transactions by putting a stamp that this is an agreement, is law. But you know that this agreement damages the economy and it creates temporal benefits. That is not acceptable going forward. I know there was a comment about funding the operations of this platform secretariat. I think we should worry less about that. If we do it right, the funding will be there to continue working this way. The funding will be there. Combine government, private sector. As partners, I think with the cooperating partners, we should be able to be okay on this one. But the key is for us to do what is right. And for the results, positive results, to be seen, not just to be talked about. Intangibles and tangibles. Very important. Let me therefore take this opportunity to thank the International Finance Corporation. I'm sitting with my colleague there, and we were chatting over there, and I'm squeezing something out of him there. And my colleague from Johannesburg, where is he? Right, the one who ran the presentation, the IFC colleague. Oh, you're here. He hosted, today I want to expose him. He hosted me for dinner, and we were hiding. When we were having dinner with him, we were hiding so that he's not seen by people in this country, right? And we were scheming this, and today it's happening. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah. So IFC, don't mark him down. I think he did a good thing. Yeah, we got no network. We've got to network. It's very important that we network. So I want to thank the IFC for the technical support and logistical support rendered towards the establishment of this dialogue forum. Let me emphasize, that's a point I banked earlier. This IFC is part of the World Bank. We own the World Bank. As Zambia, we are shareholders to the World Bank. So in this country, we like to drive petness. And I've heard many times people say, oh, HH is only working with foreigners. IFC is not a foreign business. World Bank is not a foreign business. It's our business. So we're working with them to do what is good for our people using our own business. Only that is a multilateral in the name of the World Bank and the IFC. I needed to make this point so that we are clear about it. But we also want to express our gratitude for the support we've received from our cooperating partners. The chair of this group, the German ambassador, done a lot of work behind the scenes. Thank you for that. Maybe more importantly is to thank our own private sector, for taking interest in this that we are launching today, for your technical contributions, material contributions. I remember having a meeting with the bankers group at State House, and we talked about this. And today, we are here, launching it. Shortly after we talked about it, I talked about this on Monday at a press briefing, that soon we are launching this instrument. Today, we are launching the instrument. We're moving. We're on the road towards progress. So I want to thank the domestic private sector for your support. We believe that you will continue to support the functioning of the forum to enhance private sector development for the good of your businesses, our businesses, Zambian businesses, international businesses operating here, for the good of our people and our country. Let me also take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you gathered here today for your time. Your time is valuable. Following us on various media platforms are many citizens of this country and outside of this country. Beauty of technology. We thank you for your time as well, following these deliberations here in this hall today. We also want to appreciate once more the media. The media. I was thinking on my own there that, Mr. Kango, let's design some short stools so these guys can sit on stools instead of sitting on the floor. Short because they will not obstruct. I think the reason they're sitting on the floor is to avoid obstructing the view. But we can design, even the hotels, Mulungushi Hall can do it, shorter stools so that they remain attentive, because they're very important. They must report the truth about this encounter here. So we care for you as well. We value the media. And I believe now is the time to act. Now is the time to take full responsibility for the development of our economy, for creating opportunities for all our people, employees, employers, businesses, who are mutually interdependent. Sometimes we forget that. You can't have an employee without an employer. You can't have a job without an investment. And I listen to these debates, no. I mean, these investors, you should be the investor. You should be the job creator. And when you are a job creator, you value employees and you also value an investment. Because one cannot exist without another. Yes, the robots are there, but even some robots, not maybe some, all of them are made by human labor, isn't it? All of them. Even technology is driven by human labor. So the key component is labor, because it's capital, human capital. It creates everything. So this is the time to do it for all of us. Now is the time to join hands and develop our country. As I told you, I take personally some blame, and you should do so yourselves, that we have sat over years watching the country degenerating. We just sat like, we sat there, kept on talking. So, but this is a time to make up for our mistakes. for our cowardice, our comfort zones. This is the time. We are the masters of our own destiny. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure, truly my pleasure, to declare the Public-Private Dialogue Forum for Private Sector and Economic Development officially launched. Officially launched. This approach has worked for other countries. You heard Vietnam, out of war. You can go back to Singapore, early days. After they separated, remember they were one country with Malaysia at some point. Then they de-linked. The Singaporean leaders applied this too. It doesn't have to be exact because conditions are different, but the principles worked for them. Even the de-linked Malaysia, on their own, they applied it, it worked for them. Remember, Malaysia, South Korea, we were almost the same size of economy at our independence. Look at Singapore, look at South Korea, look at Malaysia today. This toolkit is important. So it should work for us to realize a better life for our people, for our businesses, for our country. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Let's continue with a standing ovation for the launch of the Public-Private Dialogue Forum for Private Sector and Economic Development, just officially launched by the President of the Republic of Zambia. We've got a lot to celebrate. Let me hear you one more time. Thank you so much for a very moving and call to action speech from the President, where he highlighted and emphasized the collective effort and ensuring that we are reminded that this is a government program supported by partners. He has highlighted that the private sector needs to create jobs. The PPD is about jobs, jobs, and more jobs. He has called us to account for evidence-based solutions with results and ensure that the PPD is an instrument of our way of working. He has challenged us to ensure that the private sector creates wealth through business support of SMEs and SMEs, micro SMEs. So this is what we get from the keynote speech, and we thank the Republican President who was here today specifically to launch the PPD, and we heard how it has been a long journey, and he thanked those that have moved the journey with him. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have just 2 more items before the end of our official program for today. Right now, I think this is a cause for celebration, and I will invite an amazing young lady who herself is in the creative space, and she is running it as a business. While we wait for Mr. Andrew Chipwende, who has been acknowledged by the Republican President, to come and give us an overview of the next step, and thereafter we will go into our vote of thanks and we will call it a day. In the meantime, enjoy some entertainment from the lovely Wezi.
Densoni. I'm a silent book. Katipali chintu chuba bisha ni mauyo ni chimpya yokutisi ni kazi chingilije katipali chintu chuba bisha ni mauyo ni chimpya nunkalila kuziuja imbani mbozako bakumwe ulawila usakale na mwezo mumtima wako zimbishe nyimbo zako imba nyimbo zako bakumwe ulabila usakale na mwezo mumtima wako zimbishe nyimbo zako. Ayakine onikonda komasoni langiza nikonda bantu bonse si bonse bonikonda ine soni pasatabi yobalangija mutima wangu nende nukalila kuziuja ayakine onikonda komasoni langija nukonda bantu bonse si bonse bonikonda ine soni pasantawi yobalangija mutima wangu ne nunkalila kuziuja imbani mbozako bakumwe ulabila usankale na mwezo mumtima wako zimbise nyimbo zako imba nyimbo zako iyelele mama usankale na mwezo mumtima wako zimbishe nyimbo zako. Thank you.
Thank you to the lovely Wezi, the talent that we have in Zambia. In a short while, I will invite Mr. Andrew Chipwende to give us an overview of the next steps, and he will put into consideration some of the questions that we had during the panel discussion and after the panel discussion that we couldn't address. And thereafter, we will have a reaction from the Zambia Association of Manufacturing before we get to our vote of thanks. Andrew, would you like to join me up here, please?
Mr. President, sir, it's my honor and rare privilege to stand here as the head of the Secretariat of the PPD. I was supposed to deliver the next steps, but I'm sure the private sector, the public sector, the cooperating partners will agree, Mr. President, that in your speech, you have actually preempted and covered what the next steps should be for the PPD, as well as the expectations of the PPD. So I'm kind of stuck in terms of what to present, but I'll get back to that with your permission. And I thought maybe I could use this opportunity to take advantage of now what will be a very short next steps presentation and read out some of the questions that would have been asked on the discussion panel so that these are formally handed over to the Secretariat. I think the first question, Mr. President, was from Mr. Rolf Shenton, who said, Mr. President, this program is focused on urban and peri-urban contexts in Zambia. 1, jobs from industry. 2, the farmers, the rural population who are self-employed, land and natural capital rich. They need a different investor, help with structuring their assets, businesses, and management. Will there be another separate process for rural public-private dialogue? And will this process address their very different context? That was a question from Mr. Rolf Shenton. And then there was also 2 questions from Mr. Sakasimbi Munema, founding chairman of Sakasimbi Eco Village Foundation. The first question was that, has PPD designed a national compact business plan to create a source of income that will equal the socio-economic sectors for all Zambians for the next 100 years, not 10 years? Can the government provide an enabling environment to our organization so that we implement our paradigm and create sustainable business to all Zambians? I'm sure the answers to these questions were contained in the President's speech. Nevertheless, we'll be taking these questions up at the Secretariat. In terms of the way forward, I only have 3 areas that probably I could touch on as the next steps. The first one, as has already been intimated again by the President, is that the Secretariat needs to be finalized. Interviews are being held for the remaining staff positions, and we expect that these should be finalized within May, and the Secretariat should be fully operational. The second item, again, touches in part to the question raised by Mr. Rolf Shenton. There will be a dissemination program within the PPD where the wider private sector will be contacted, both within Lusaka, in the provinces, women, of course, on an ongoing basis. A private sector day is being proposed at which all key players in the private sector will be invited to come and engage with the Secretariat, engage with government, at which some of what the President mentioned, the low-hanging fruits, will be compiled, assessed, evaluated, and taken through the various working groups for resolution. Finally, the outstanding item that will need to be concluded as well within the next few days or weeks will be a formal agreement between the International Finance Corporation and the government. A lot of work has been done already. This will now culminate in a formal agreement which will provide for the nature of support to be provided, the coordination with the cooperating partners, the resources that will be provided, as well as other legal and corporate areas that need to be formalized between the IFC and the government of Zambia. I wish to thank you for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you at the next forum that we organize with the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the overview of the next steps. The Zambia Association of Manufacturers is a registered organization in the Republic of Zambia as a business association which represents the interests of the entire manufacturing sector and other related economic and/or production sectors in Zambia. Therefore, the Zambia Association of Manufacturers has a reaction to the speech from the Republican President. I would like to make welcome Mr. Ashu Saga from the Zambia Association of Manufacturing to give his remarks.
I didn't know I was that tall. Mr. President, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, and may I, with your permission, ride on the protocols that have been set before by previous speakers. I wish to address the remarks that you have made and the speech you have given and address it with two important words that I think we need to take note of. One is the consistent emphasis on the word we, and two is the need, I think, for us to change our mindset to using the word reform, which I think alludes to accepting a status quo and improving on it and moving to a situation where we transform our country. Transformation, Your Excellency, Mr. President, is the key to what we are looking to achieve here. Transformation is the foundation of where we want to go as a country. If we continue to sit and accept the status quo, as you have said in the past, where we have seen situations happen, the economy deteriorate, we will not achieve what the PPD has set out to do. I want to break this down in terms of addressing my private sector, addressing government, addressing the cooperating partners, and addressing the business individuals that may be appointed to look at the PPD. What we need to realize is the PPD creates a platform for exactly what I've said, transformation. This country is at a point where we need to transform where we have been and where we are going. And private sector, Your Excellency, and ZAM especially, we will work with you to ensure this happens. When we look at the expectations from private sector, we have to be responsible to ensure that we deliver our part of the bargain. You have asked that of us, and I'm sure we will do it. As far as government goes, we look forward to creating an environment or policies that enhance value addition and jobs for our people. And I'm very happy that you have mentioned a KPI of jobs and how jobs leads on to everything else. I think this is very important for private sector to recognize and play its role in ensuring that we achieve this. One of the comments that I think we need to be very careful of, Mr. President, is this should not be a platform of what you want to hear. This needs to be a platform of what you need to hear. And this has to be very candid on the part of private sector to make sure that we give you the information through the structures that you have suggested to ensure that our country grows. On the cooperating partners, as part of the solutions that you have, we are going to be a part of the process. I have noted that the representative talked about skills development and value chains. Skills development is something that we would look forward as private sector for you to participate in, to ensure that our country has the resource base in terms of skills to make sure that we can grow as an economy. If we look, for example, we have talked about even Zambia being the fintech hub of this region. Let us invest in the skills development of our country. And with your help as cooperating partners, when you lock into the PPD platform, I'm sure you will give us the backup support that we need.
The IFC, well done. I think, looking at, Mr. President, I must echo your remarks on what the IFC has done. The IFC, without the funding, without the administrative backing, without the secretariat running, we will not be able to have this off the ground. And we must appreciate them for what they're doing. Lastly, the business persons that may be appointed to the PPD platform, you bring a different dimension of an entrepreneurial skill that we need to think out of the box for the solutions that are being asked for. We have to move quickly. The opportunity we have cannot be understated. We need to use this opportunity again to transform our country. Mr. President, with those few remarks, I want to state very clearly that we, the opening word I used, are with you. We are going to make sure that we transform our country. We are going to make sure that we create jobs, and we are going to work together. Thank you very much.
Great contributions on behalf of the Zambia Association of Manufacturers. Mr. President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the PPD has brought out what we would call a PPD challenge from the ministers present here. And this is for the private sector and media, that the inaccessible ministers are all here today. So take advantage of them being here to address any concerns that you have. This is your moment. With that said, as we come to a close, I would like to introduce Mr. Chabuka Jerome Kawesha. It's actually Dr. Kawesha, who is a regulatory and compliance specialist. He is a certified arbitrator, mediator, and corporate governance trainer. He is the current president, Zambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and chairperson of the Zambia Private Sector Alliance, ZPSA. Other roles served include chairperson, Financial Sector Development Plan, Payment Systems Working Group, Bank of Zambia, Zaki Vice President, and President, Lusaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Chabuka is a fellow at the Institute of Directors, Zambia, and Rotary International recognized Paul Harris Fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me make welcome Dr. Chabuka Jerome Kawesha, Chair of the Private Sector Alliance, to give a vote of thanks on this launch of the PPD.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, Cabinet Ministers, Your Royal Highness, may I conclude and acknowledge all the protocols as earlier observed. We greatly appreciate this opportunity that you brought before us. Given the event we are observing, it leaves us in the private sector space to thank you, Your Excellency, and the government for expanding the platforms through which the government and the private sector will dialogue for driving real growth. We also extend our appreciations to your cabinet ministers, the presidential advisors, the acting secretary to the cabinet, the secretary to the treasury, the permanent secretary, and Mr. Chipwende at the secretariat, and to everyone who's been involved in structuring this initiative. The role of our cooperating partners and the renewed dynamism is recognized, and I would like to extend our appreciation to the International Finance Corporation, covering both Zambia and other regional and international representatives, who we have recently met. Special recognition to Mr. Carlos Katsuya, and we appreciate your presence in our country. The recognition of the role the private sector plays re-emphasizes the many reasons why one should consider doing business in the sub-Saharan African country of Zambia. To the government of Zambia, we also take this opportunity to commend you on the international debt relief programs and the quality of economic governance. I repeat, the quality of economic governance we are witnessing today. We equally recognize the efforts the government is taking, not only in matters related to the Mopani copper mines and the Konkola copper mines, but an appreciable level of reorganizing and creating certainty in the mining sector at large. In the words of 4 authors, under the title Making Africa Work, they write, and I quote, "Changing a country's economic trajectory and dealing with an issue of Africa's projected population growth requires strong political leadership. Such leadership not only needs to set out a vision and make the tough choices when resources are scarce, but it also takes energy, commitment to the common good, and attention to detail to drive delivery." End of quote. Given sub-Saharan Africa's population being projected to double to 2 billion within a generation, and most likely Zambia will be sitting at 40 million people by 2032, without us taking decisive set of actions to encourage long-term investment, we may be overwhelmed by the population in our own country. Thus, the Private Sector Dialogue Forum is the right policy and institutional action that will help to create conditions for high growth. The risks stemming from large numbers of digitally connected youth without jobs are high. They are unlikely to sit idly waiting for change. They will demand it. Thus, it's good to note at the helm of this transformation that Zambia sees today are actions guided by commercial principles, balanced by a devolution of power and shared responsibilities between the public and private sector. Successful entrepreneurship in and across Zambia's landscape, like across our continent, require businesses to move from trade to inclusive business, to deal with relative and competitive distance, partner with government and NGOs, as well as coordinate simultaneously 3 types of portfolios: markets, partnerships, and regulatory issues. Your Excellency, we are committed and submit that one key objective under the PPDF is that its activities must be driven with specific targets and timelines with key focus on job creation. With the advent of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the PPDF can work to reposition Zambia's outlook and strength. By thinking across conventional boundaries of competition, we shall see how to make conventional altering and strategic moves that restructure established market boundaries and create blue oceans. Zambia is moving towards a destination of trade and investment as enormous transformations are expected to take place. So rather than wonder whether they should enter the market, foreign traders and investors are now increasingly considering how and when to engage. Further, the PPDF and the government should include getting investors, both local and foreign, into the dotted industrial parks and farming blocks around the country. The parks must have comprehensive programs, including one-stop services to proper utilities, environmental management, to skills development and training, apprenticeship programs, and many other initiatives that can make it easier. We should aim at not less than 20,000 jobs per industrial park. There are considerable opportunities, Your Excellency, in operating manufacturing bases and production lines for hundreds of component parts and materials for export. However, we need to address the challenges where electricity, which from time to time is unreliable or a challenge, particularly in the rural and peri-urban areas. Reliable energy supply will remove the deficit in infrastructure and reposition the private sector's impact in productive and value addition activities. Electricity generation, distribution, and transmission must account for not less than 45% of total investment in Zambia over the next 5 years. We have electricity vehicle initiatives to light up, expansion of telecommunication services to cover the country, new tourism routes and spots to open up, cold room value chains to expand, new manganese mines to open, lithium battery factories, electric power export opportunities, and the mining sector eager to reach 3 million tons. All these need electricity generation and transmission space to rapidly expand to all 10 provinces. To my colleagues in the private sector, what can we as a private sector far and near do to contribute to meaningful and progressive change in our marketplace? In any market, policies are weak on their own unless we, the people, give them power. We give them meaning with our participation, the choices and business alliances we make. We need to believe in our ability to bring change, and our bold experiment in industrialization is back on track. The work of economic growth has always been hard, at times contentious, but the hopes we hold are common. The private sector can take this country fundamentally in a new direction. Thus, the PPD must embrace work and work to actualize, develop solutions, and work in addressing wealth distribution across the country. Fast-growing urban populations present enormous administrative, infrastructural, and logistical challenges for city authorities. Demand for affordable food, clean water, housing, new roadways, to name but a few, have all increased, and these are prime areas for us investors to respond to. It's not government's responsibility alone. Infrastructure, banking, retail, agriculture, and natural resources, the demand for products and services in these sectors are seemingly endless. Let us use the PPDF to drive the expansion of consumer-oriented industries threefold from the current levels in Zambia. The African middle class represents millions of people with disposable incomes who are interested in particular in consumer products such as fast-moving goods. A common portion of our population is in the so-called bottom of the pyramid, BOP, and they generally cannot afford to buy certain goods. However, the private sector has seen that those in the BOP cannot be ignored from neither a societal nor economic perspective. we encourage the PPDF to develop a BOP strategy that looks inwards and combines cost reductions, innovations, new job streams, and it is increasingly acknowledged rather that the private sector firms that adopt BOP strategies or inclusive business strategies need to work in partnership with non-market parties such as NGOs or local authorities, as earlier alluded to. In Zambia, I can estimate that some homegrown companies or corporations are likely to account for 35,000 new jobs every year if the BOP strategy is followed. In summation, and we touched on quick wins, Your Excellency, as I summarize some salient activities and points to consider that will accelerate the positive impact of the PPDF. 1, re-engineer and restructure our SME policy with a matter of urgency. 2, a deliberate medium to long-term adjustments by further lowering regulatory fees across multiple economic subsectors. The ICT regulator must look at lowering the regulatory fees. The energy sector and all other regulators. 3, a deliberate approach to ring fence up to 1,500 megawatts with power purchase agreements. I repeat, a deliberate approach to ring fence up to 1,500 megawatts with power purchase agreements and wheeling agreements, therein cost-reflective tariffs anchored by the Industrial Development Corporation, ZCCMRH, the Zambia Power Corporation, and ZESCO for Zambian-promoted PV and wind solar projects. The generated power can be for in-country use as well as export. 4, a deliberate and agent approach to attract local and foreign investors as well as capital for electricity distribution. 5, domain for accessing regulatory risks and effectiveness. For regulators interested in stimulating investment in any sector, the most obvious place to begin is to examine existing barriers in investment. These can be in access of public resources, license conditions, end-user awareness, barriers to market experimentation, high cost of land, lack of energy, poor infrastructure, or in other areas, supply and demand activity. Thus, as I conclude, the PPDF must most certainly propel our entrepreneurial spirit, and indeed it has, as well as trade mentality. If there is anyone out there that still believes we are not on a new trajectory as a country, I urge you to get involved. We have a joint task to create more than 1 million jobs, as our debt to the unemployed is beyond measure. Zambia's growth is real and sustainable. Thus, the decisions we make at this defining moment of this improbable journey must inspire us all to set new milestones for ourselves. I thank you.
Thank you. That was Dr. Chawuka Jerome Kawesha, the chair of the Private Sector Alliance, who was giving a vote of thanks and, yes, gave us much more. At this juncture, I would just like to thank all our guests for joining us today. Thank you for spending your time this morning for a very special launch of the PPD that has been led by the President of the Republic of Zambia. As we come to a close, would like to just remind you to please register your contact details at the front. Spend a few moments there. Give us your contact details so that we can then start executing on some of the outcomes that have already been discussed here this morning. We also identify and recognize that we've kept you for too long, so we would like you to please join us for refreshments in the Monsieur Otunya room just after the national anthem and as we get ready to see off our guest of honor and his entourage. At this point in time, without wasting much time, I would like distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, led by Mr. President, for all of us to please be upstanding as we sing the national anthem. Madam Lillian, please join me.
Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy, unity, victors in the struggle for their rights. We for freedom's fight. Oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand. Let us, oh, our people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free, one land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace is Zambia's crown. Like a noble eagle in its flight, Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one, strong and free, praise be to God. Praise be, bless the great nations. Zambia, free men we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one, strong and free.
Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to honor our guest of honor and allow him to excuse himself from the program for today. We now announce the departure of the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. And as he goes out, shall we appreciate him with an ongoing standing ovation. We've just launched the PPD. Can we do a more energetic standing ovation? We wish to also express our gratitude to all the cabinet ministers that joined us today, all of you from the private and public sectors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Please feel free to mingle. We have refreshments for you in the Mosiotunya room. Thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you all traveling mercies. Drive safely as you head back to your various workplaces and back to your stations. Thank you for joining us today. It has been a pleasure hosting you. My name is Rose Sibisi, signing off for now.
Sorry, my pony. Walalongo itinde bena, mtaka na mtaka pony. Alale, dua payango na tena. Kakamule mamango na teke. Sorry, mama tena.
Juliet.